What's up, everybody? We're back for another episode of Martial Arts Movie Mondays. I have no idea why I suddenly have better light today than we had on our show on Sunday. It seems to do whatever it wants to do. But we're back. I know we didn't have a show last week. We've been in and out with a lot of our shows. We were kind of back, but with everything that was going on last week, we decided not to do any of our shows through the week. But we're back. We started back Sunday. The show must now go on, bring more entertainment to you. So I'm going to kind of do what I was planning to do last week. But if you've never seen this show before, first, you notice we changed positions in the room. It's not as fancy as seeing all the movies, but we did it to open up the room. We got to live here too, you know. But there'll be some different things changed and added. But the show, we take a deep dive into my movie collection, which you can kind of see over here, but it goes all the way around this room. If you've seen the past show, just go look at them. You'll see the movies behind me. But I dive into existing as well as new movies that are coming out. And I try to stick to stuff that I already have, so that we can pull it off, or that it's just come out, so I have a physical copy in my hand. But today we're going to kind of break that rule, because we're going to talk about the film that I have, but also its sequel that just came out, that is not on Blu-ray and DVD yet, but it is on digital. So we're going to go ahead and talk about them both. So without further ado, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite martial arts and film artists in film today, and who teams up with a director who's really established himself as a great martial arts action director. And I'm talking about none other than the Scott Adkins, who's been teaming up with Jesse V. Johnson for movies like Triple Threat, I believe Savage Dog. I think they did The Accident Man together as well. There have been some great movies, and I think they've done more than that, but those are the three that pop off my head. But this one also features Louis Mandylor, and this one came out in 2018, the first one, which is called The Debt Collector. The premise of it is this martial arts instructor who's kind of in debt. He's trying to save his school, trying to figure out a way to survive in life. One of his black belts is kind of works in the criminal organization. He's like a debt collector, mob type guy, and tells him, look, I can get you some work, help you earn a little bit of money. So he tries to go do that. He's not really a bad guy. He's kind of more desperate. So he works for this guy who teams him up with Louis Mandylor, who's an old school debt collector. He very much reminds me of like some of the Bruce Willis characters, like from Last Boy Scout, even though he was like a PI or detective or whatever. But he's kind of the down and out, drinks a lot, kind of just disheveled. But he has his own past story, and it kind of is an action comedy buddy cop. It very much reminded me of movies like Lethal Weapon and The Last Boy Scout and things like that, of this first one, where you have two guys that are kind of two completely different put together. Their dysfunctional relationship is what makes the movie work. The first one, obviously, they're getting to know each other. They don't know much about each other, so they don't have that initial respect. Scott Adkins being the new guy, he gets thrust into most of the fight scenes with good reason. They're trying to showcase his martial arts skills, because most of us that want to watch this movie, we want to see Scott Adkins kicking some ass. And he kicks plenty of ass in this movie. Great fight scenes. And don't sleep on Louis Mandylor, because he got some great fight scenes in there too. Not as many on the same way. He's more of a brawler, where Adkins is the martial arts guy. But they pair well together in this first one, and then it also shows their relationship evolve. Now, obviously, you know, on this show, I like to talk about how these martial arts films also impact my own martial arts journey as being an instructor as well as a forever student. These movies, being 2018, came way later than when I started martial arts, but I constantly learn from Adkins. Like, I'm actually, during this pandemic, quarantine, self-isolations, whatever you want to classify it as, I've been following his YouTube channel. And while I know how to do most of the stuff he's teaching, I still watch it from new perspective. His 740 and his 520 videos are interesting, because I'm kind of trying to find some of those that I haven't done in years, find them back in different ways of doing them, and those videos have been helping. So as a martial artist, he keeps bringing content, and watching him in this film, any film he does, it gives you a chance to see, and it's not just him, any martial artist, but with him, he does lots of kicking, so you get to see different ways of kicking. But like this time around, he does away with a lot of the fancy jumping that he likes to do, the tricking type kicking, which don't get me wrong, I love watching this stuff. This felt more grounded. It feels more gritty and raw when they fight. It's just brutal. It's very reminiscent of movies from the 80s and the 90s where the tough guys just beat the crap out of each other, and couldn't stop them. They kept going, but they still took a beating. It wasn't like the Unstoppable. Like I love Steven Seagal, but back in a lot of his movies, he never got beaten in his early movies. But I like movies like this where the tough guy gets his ass whooped, but then he keeps coming back. Even though he might get his ass whooped again, he comes back. So we got The Debt Collectors, 2018. It's a great, fun flick. I revisited it. I'd seen it a couple times, but of course I rewatched it getting ready for the new one, which is called The Debt Collectors, which I would have loved seeing it, just The Debt Collector 2. I think, if I remember correctly, I want to see Jesse B. Johnson. I think I saw him post something about that. I think that's what he wanted as well. But you deal with studios, you deal with distribution. Sometimes you don't have a choice what happens. But Debt Collectors does adds the plural, because now, in this case, the titles work, because in this case, Louis Mandylor is the debt collector, Scott Adkins the newbie. You get to the next film, they're both debt collectors now. And what was surprising more than anything, that there was a second movie, was the way this one ends, which I'm not going to spoil it, but it doesn't end with hopes of let's see more adventures with these people. You think it's done. So now we have Debt Collectors that came out this year. It's on digital and on demand and those kind of things right now. I don't believe it's on Blu-ray or DVD as of yet. Came out a couple weeks ago. Like I said, I meant to do it on the show already. And what I love about it is more, instead of being so much a sequel, it's a continuation of this same story. Because while this story could end and never had another movie happen, this would have been a standalone movie. The new one makes total sense. And it does expand the story because it continues from the aftermath of what happened here into the new film on a couple levels. One, the situation they're in, obviously. The things that happen in this movie directly lead into what happens in the next movie. But it also allows them, the actors with Mandylor and Adkins and director Johnson, to expand the characters and show a little bit of PTSD from what they've been through, but also the past that both of them have dealt with. Mandylor gets a lot more to do emotionally. There's a great moment, while the fights are awesome again, there's a great moment where the two guys are just talking in a hotel, and they're talking about kind of what's happened and how it's affected them. And it's a real humanizing moment for these two characters that you might forget, because you're having so much fun watching them kick people's asses and get beat up, and the laughs and just the buddy cop action type vibe. But it brings it down for just a few minutes to really humanize the characters and remind you that these guys have been through some crap, but they've been through this crap together, and they're growing together, and let's move forward. And of course, throughout the movie, they still fight each other, they still argue, but there's new elements, all leading up to not only a big finale that you'd expect, just like this one had, but there's also a moment where they fight each other. And again, you take Mandylor's boxing bruiser type style versus Adkins' martial arts style, and it makes for a great fight. It's very reminiscent. I don't know if it was on purpose or not. I'm assuming it was, but it's very reminiscent of the alley fight scene, which was Keith David and Roddy Piper in the movie They Live, which is like an iconic fight where they just kind of beat the crap out of each other. It's very much that idea. And they beat the snot out of each other. And there's elements, the reason I think it really is a homage, because there's elements that it even ends kind of the same way. So I'm pretty sure that's probably what it was, but I'm sure if I'm wrong, somebody will tell me. But Debt Collectors adds, I think it's hard to believe, but it seemed like it had even more action because they already built up so much in here with the story. The second one allows them to just keep going all in with the action, build the characters a little bit, involve them a little bit more, and once again, made for great entertainment. Because these two guys, Mandylor and Adkins, I would love to see them do more movies together, whether we get more Debt Collector films, which I'm all for, or get them in different parts together. They have good chemistry, a good vibe. I don't know what they feel about each other in real life, but on screen, it works. And these two movies are great. They're fun. They're old school. They're gritty. They're just about watching some ass whooping, but there's a little bit of a deep story in there for you. Not so much that it bogs down what most people are probably going to want to get out of these movies, but it works. As a martial artist, like I said, I love, and even Mandylor, seeing just some of the way he throws punches and the combinations or the way he counters. It's not so much of watching it and saying, "Ooh, I've never thought about that," but seeing how somebody, which he obviously has done something, whether it's boxing or some other kind of martial arts, you could tell the way he strikes that he's done something, right? I don't personally know his background. I haven't researched it. Adkins, is a martial artist, and he's primarily a kicker, and he does kick a lot in the movie, but he does some great hand combinations, but doesn't seem to have a problem of like taking a beating, like some of the martial arts and history films like refuse to do that and humanize their fights and stuff. But I love that kind of stuff, and that's just me. But both the Debt Collector and Debt Collectors are both out. Like I said, the Debt Collector 2018. Blu-ray DVD. This was, who put this out? Now I gotta look. I can't even see it. In this lighting, man. I don't know who put this one out. I can't see from the lights. I don't know who released this. Oh well, you can find it. The Debt Collector. Debt Collectors was put out, I believe, by Samuel Goldwyn. It's available on digital and on demand. If you can find it, definitely watch this one first. And if you can, watch the other one. I had an online screener, and I was able to watch them back to back, and it made for such a cool experience because they're both like one long story, and you don't necessarily know it's one long story until you kind of get into it, but it serves its purpose. Love both these movies. Big shout out to Jesse V. Johnson, who keeps bringing the action. Scott Adkins, who always brings the action, and I hope to see more Louis Mandylor tagging in with Adkins and Johnson in some form in the future. So we got those two movies. Also, a bit of sad news. We talked about on the show. We've actually mentioned the movie a bunch of times because I had a running joke for a while with the movie Gymkata, where at the end of almost every show I did, whether it was the TV Tuesdays, the Hollywood Metro Live, or this show, I'd always end it with saying, don't worry, we ran out of time to talk about Gymkata, but we'll get to it. And then we finally did a Gymkata show with me and my wife a few weeks ago, or maybe longer than that now. But sad news to report that star Kurt Thomas, who was the first U.S. male to win the championship. I don't know exactly which one, but it was a big deal at the time. He's also the T Flare, I believe that's what they call it, is named after him. It's actually called the Thomas Flare. It was a move that he uses that has now shifted into, I saw somebody post about it, being part of the breakdancing universe, which it is. They call them the T Flares in breakdancing. And he was the star of Gymkata, as far as I know. It's his only big movie. It's kind of a cult classic. Sadly, he passed away this week from a stroke. It was really a sad thing, not only because I was a fan. I've been trying to get with him to do an interview because I was really wanting to touch base and do a lot more, let him know that how much Gymkata, I loved it and how much it meant to us. A lot of other people I've seen post about the movie, but also just to get a chance to interview him, and sadly that's not going to happen now. I'm not just sad because I don't get to interview him. It's sad that he passed away in general. So big shout out, much love to his family and friends, and thoughts and prayers. And hopefully Kurt Thomas is looking down on us, knowing that the love of Gymkata is going to live through all of us fans. And that's all I have about that. All righty. So don't forget, we got the 2008s, the Debt Collector. We got 2020 Debt Collectors. Make sure you try to check these movies out because they're the kind of movies that if you don't support them, we don't get more of them. So go out there, get them legally. Don't stream them through one of those stealing services and say, I didn't steal it. It was only on my such and such. If you didn't pay for it and you didn't borrow it from a friend, you got it on some computer thing, you stole it. That's all there is to it. So go out there, rent, digital, buy, whatever the Debt Collector, and then do the same thing with the new one, Debt Collectors. Pay, support these movies because the more you support them, the more sequels we get, the more different versions, the bigger budget they get because they got the numbers. All right. And what are you doing now? Most people are still stuck at home. Things are just now opening up. It's still a great time to check out a great movie. So Debt Collector and Debt Collectors, check it out in digital and DVD and whatever you can find. All righty. Don't forget, be back here tomorrow for a new episode of TV Tuesdays. Me and the missus will be back. I don't know what time tomorrow because I'm going to probably have to go help my parents with some things. So we may have to do it later in the evening or the late afternoon. But either way, we will be doing a show because we got a ton of crap to talk about. Check out our website at hollywoodmatrimony.com. I still have one contest going on to win a copy of a SpongeBob DVD of some sort, and we have some other ones going to pop up soon. And be back here live on Sunday for an all-new episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live, where we have a whole bunch of new movies we're going to talk about. Even though the theater's not open, we still are, and we're still watching stuff to bring them to you to talk about. And then we'll be back here next Monday for an all-new episode of Martial Arts Movie Mondays, where I'm trying to make my way through one of the biggest series of films in the martial arts world that I'm aware of that I've been wanting to talk about. So it might be a longer show because we're going to break down each one of those movies. But it's all about, can I get through all those movies before then? If not, we'll talk about something else. All righty? Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Please be nice to one each other. Please be kind. If you don't understand what's going on, it's okay. Stop and listen. Listen to what people have to say. Listen to what people's problems are. Because if you listen to them, they're more likely to listen to you. Be respectful to each other. Care for one another, and we're going to get through this together somehow, some way to be better on the other side. All righty? Don't forget, always keep your hands up. I love you all. Peace. See you next time.